welcome to all of you in this session of the India International Conference on Democracy and Election Management. I am Bharti Yadav, thematic lead from IIIDEM, and I take this opportunity to introduce you our today's session, electoral observers. So today we are talking about observers. In election, observers are like the CCTV of democracy. They don't interfere, they don't influence, but their presence ensures that everything remains open, accountable, and transparent. You can also think of them as those sincere people who quietly sit in the background and say, "Don't worry, we are watching," only for fairness. So, yes, observers may be silent, but their role speaks very loudly for credibility and public trust. Ladies and gentlemen, this session is a part of India International Conference on Democracy and Election Management, being organized by IIIDEM under the aegis of Election Commission of India in partnership with International IDEA. This conference is being conducted as a part of India's chairship of International IDEA, led by Honorable Chief Election Commissioner of India. India's chairship is guided by the theme Democracy for an Inclusive, Peaceful, Resilient, and Sustainable World. The theme is anchored on two key pillars. One is reimagining democracy for the future, and independent and professional election management bodies for sustainable democracy. Under these pillars, India has identified several interconnected thematic areas focused on global standards, best practices, and innovation in electoral processes. We are honored that this conference has brought together all the senior officials, experts, and delegates from different countries and institutions. With this context, I'll now welcome you to our session theme, MS9, that is Model Standards 9, Electoral Observers. So this session explores the role of electoral observation as a key mechanism for promoting openness, fairness, fairness, accountability, and public confidence in electoral processes. It focuses on how domestic and international observers monitor critical stages of the election cycle to assess whether procedures are implemented fairly, transparently, and in line with the legal standards. Beyond monitoring, the session highlights how impartial and methodically sound observation can deter misconduct, enhance transparency, and strengthen communication between electoral authorities and stakeholders. It underscores the importance of clear legal status, unhindered access, inclusive participation, and ethical standard as key drivers of effective observation and support credible, trusted, and confidence building election. Now it is my privilege to introduce our distinguished speakers and panel members for this session. First, we have Dr. BVRC Purushottam Sir, the Chief Electoral Officer of Uttarakhand. So, he's a senior administrative service officer with over 23 years of experience in the Uttarakhand state and government of India. He has served in 5 union ministries and contributed to major national policies, including the National Education Policy 2020. As Chief Electoral Officer Uttarakhand, he successfully conducted the parliamentary election 2024. His tenure is marked by a strong focus on voter awareness through sweep initiatives, innovative social media and outreach, and inclusive elector participation strategies. He has strengthened interdepartmental coordination and technology driven election management. He previously served as district magistrate as relief commissioner during the 2013 Kedarnath disaster. So we welcome sir to our panel discussion. Next, we are honored to have Ms. Christy Ann McCormick, Commissioner, U.S. Election Assistance Commission, USA. So she is currently a commissioner on the U.S. Election Assistant Commission, a position she has held her confirmation by the U.S. Senate in December 2014. She has also served multiple times as chair of the commission. Prior to joining the EAC, she was a senior trial attorney in the voting section of the Civil Rights Division at the U.S. Department of Justice from 2006, where she investigated and prosecuted violations of federal voting statutes. From 2009 to 2010, she served as senior attorney advisor and acting deputy rule of law coordinator at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad, overseeing national election in Iraq and USA rule of law initiative. She previously served in the Office of the Attorney General of Virginia and as a judicial clerk in the Court of Appeals of Virginia. Ms. McCormick holds a BA from the University of Buffalo, a JD with honors from George Mason University School of Law, and attended the William and Mary School of Law. We welcome ma'am to our panel discussion. We also have with us Ms. Annie Marelinger, member, Independent Electoral Council, Suriname. Ms. Annie Marelinger is an experienced election observer with a strong background in election administration. She served as secretary of the Independent Electoral Council of the Suriname from 2014 to 2020, coordinating operation and supporting the OKB's statutory supervisory mandate, including during the 2015 and 2020 national election. Since 2020, she has been a member of the OKB with a decision-making role focused on ensuring the free, fair, and transparent election. She also has international experience as an election observer, including the 2016 Colombian referendum and the 2023 election in Antigua. Ma'am, we welcome you here in our panel discussion. Now, Mr. Ganesh Bharti, sir. So we welcome Mr. Ganesh Bharti, sir. He is the Deputy Election Commissioner of India. So let's welcome. So he is a senior IS officer of the 1998 batch with over 25 years of administrative experience in state and central government. He served as Commissioner, South Delhi Municipal Corporation from September 2019 and later as Commissioner of the Unified Municipal Corporation of Delhi from May 2020, overseeing the key urban governance and civic services. He was subsequently posted as Additional Secretary, Ministry of Women and Child Development. Since September 2025, he has been actively involved in overseeing a special intensive revision in West Bengal. Sir, we welcome you here in our panel. Now coming to academia and our speakers who will throw light on our topic electoral observer. So we are very honored to have Professor Radhesham Jaji, Professor Uttaranchal University. Sir is head at Law College, Dehradun, Uttaranchal University, and a senior Indian legal academic with over 25 years of experience in legal education, research, and administration. A former advocate at Moradabad District Court, he has served as a founder faculty member and HOD at the Thankar Mahavir University. He holds a PhD in law on consumer jurisprudence, has authored 2 books and over 70 research papers, and specializes in AI and digital rights, social jurisprudence, and consumer protection. He is a Best Teacher Awardee 2016 and an active contributor to Legal Awareness Initiative. Sir, we welcome you with all our heart, and we are looking forward for a meaningful discussion. We also have other speakers. So Professor Dilip Kumar, please give a big round of applause for sir. He is an associate professor in finance and accounting at IIM Kashipur and currently serves as a professor in charge and dean. With over 20 years of teaching and research experience, he has held several key leadership roles at the institute, including research chairperson, doctoral program chairperson, area chairperson, and chairperson of the internal audit committee. He has made significant academic contribution through publication in reputed national and international journals and continues to play a vital role in academic governance and institutional development at IIM Kashipur. Now, I take this opportunity to introduce our other speaker, Taha Siddiqui. Dr. Taha Siddiqui is an associate professor and head of Department of Media and Mass Communication at Graphic Era Hills University, Dehradun, with over 13 years of experience in media education, research, and training. She holds a PhD on media trust and fake news and a master's in convergent journalism from Jamia Millia Islamia. A certified trainer with Google News Initiative and leading media literacy program, she has conducted 100 plus trainings in nationwide. Her research focused on misinformation, AI in journalism, and digital media culture. An award-winning documentary filmmaker, her work addresses the social justice and has been screened internationally. Ma'am, we welcome you here. So with this opening remark, I now request the session to begin. Now the stage is over to our CEO, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Bharti ji, for those generous introductions of all the speakers. I welcome, I see many CEOs also here because of the popularity of this session. I think they took interest to come. I welcome everybody and all the people sitting over here. So the session will be like this. First, I'll be speaking, then ma'ams will be speaking, then Bharti sir, and then the after my speech, the academicians will be speaking. This is how the structure is. So I will just give brief introduction. Bharti ji has covered a lot. So this is the structure of my presentation. What is basic electoral observers, legal frameworks, what are the global practices, and then challenges faced by the observers, and what are the learnings that we have learned by the global experiences. So I know it's a challenge post lunch session, so I would like to make it as light as possible and not heavy. So basic definition, I mean, I don't think it needs a definition, but as the UN says, it has a definition, small definition, but the general commonsensical thing is the electoral observer, they are there to observe the election process. So why they are there, why it is necessary? Like you have seen yesterday's speech, Secretary General idea, international idea, Honorable Chief Election Commissioner, sir, there is a theme in this speech. The theme is about the trust in the elections. So how do we give trust to common people for the election process? That trust is given by an independent body which observes and then certifies, yes, the election is as per the law of the land. So that means the election is proper. So people will have trust in the democratic process. That's why the electoral observers are necessary in the whole scheme of things. So these are the global practices, electoral practices. Ganesh Bharti sir will be respected. DC sir will speak about the Indian system. So when I was researching, sir, I thought that this observation system is only unique to India. But because for this topic, I was allotted this topic, I did a lot of research. Then I found that this is ubiquitous. I mean, every nation has it, and this is mandated by the highest multilateral bodies. That it starts with the United Nations, and in Europe it is very robust, this observation system, and then India per se, because you will show how robust our system is. So these are the global practices. Most of the nations, they appoint electoral management bodies. They appoint the observer system like we do in India, and then there are third party agencies also that come and do the election observers. And in some countries we see that civic societies, non governmental organizations, they also come and do the election observe. There are different kinds of models available across the world, and there are also different kinds of election observations. Some bodies, some countries allow the whole election process to be audited by the observers. Some allow very limited parts to be observed. Where there is problem, there they allow the observation process. So it is of different mix and match. There is no standard practice. And then, as I have said, many international bodies mandate these rules and regulations. They mandate election observation system. They all stem from Article 21 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was made in 1948, which recognized the individual's right to take part in democratic process of the country. If we come to Africa, even in Africa, they have the standards, African Union Election Observation Mission, and SADC, program on entrenching the principles of election management, monitoring, and observation for South Africa. So, the basic meaning is, what I wanted to say is, globally, this is a very standard practice of electoral observation, mandated by rules and covenants. So I will throw some light about the legal frameworks in Europe so that we can have a fair understanding how it is done. See, the Copenhagen document of 1990 in Europe first brought a proper codified election observation system. They recognized that free, fair, and transparent elections as the core tenet of the democracy. And then they said that all the states of European Union should invite international and domestic observers for elections. So I will not go deep into what it is written. So I'll just go into the basic principles. So if you have any doubts, I mean, though it is very intuitive, the presentation, if anybody has any doubts, they can interject. So general principles of electoral observation are, they are basically the observation mission should remain neutral. This is one of the basic things that an observation mission, electoral management bodies and observation mission should keep in mind. They should remain neutral and not interfere with the electoral process, and they should respect human rights and UN charter, like I have just told. And then international observer missions should not involve in parallel tabulation of results. I mean, they should not get involved in parallelly giving out the results and then vitiating the whole election process. They should leave the election process to the election management body, and they should just go and observe and then give their observations to the election management body. And UN observation missions are basically limited based if a formal EMB request. And then I'll just give some global examples. What happens in South Africa, what happens in France. So I've taken these two examples because they are the pinnacles of election observation system in the world. I mean, in South Africa, the appointment of observers is as per the Electoral Act of 1998, and they have an independent election commissions which accredits observers. This is one new system where the observers, specific observers, are accredited, and then they are chosen to come and observe the all the elections of the in South Africa. So they are taken from the domestic civil society, they have taken from political parties also, and then international mission observers also. They accredit them, and then they allow them to come and see the elections. This is a good system that is followed in South Africa, and this is accredited by the African Union Common Market for Eastern and South African Election Observation Mission. If we come to Europe, France, I think this is one of the oldest democracies in the world, so, which I think not only the oldest, but one of the flag bearers for modern democracy in the world. So there, the system is as per the French electoral code. The observers are appointed. So as per the Article 58 of the French Constitution, which deals with presidential elections and 15 parliament elections, they get the authority to appoint the observers and the observer system. And France, being a part of the European Union country, as I said, they have to be mandated by the Copenhagen document. They should allow international observers. They come, and then they ensure that what all do during the examination is whether all the local laws that are prevailing in France, and whether the election has been happening as per the legal compliance checks. And then during polling and also during counting is a very important part. They sit there and then observe what is happening. And what I said, these are the principles, the duties, the presentation, the duties part. The duties say that they cannot interfere in the election process. I think this should be a gold standard for all observation missions. The observers should not interfere in election process. So now I'll come to the challenges that are faced by the observers. Everybody acknowledges that election process is a good system, but what are the challenges faced by the observers? As we all know, they come from new place. So unless the local government gives them all the logistic support, it becomes very difficult for them. And then regional language and communication barriers. In India, I'll take example of India. Every state is difficult, and every language is different, not difficult, every language is different. So for observer mission to go from one state to another state, it becomes difficult. And then technological diversity, like the observers, I will talk about the international observers. He might be from a country which is not technological developed, but today we have seen ECI net being inaugurated in India. So if they come to an advanced technological place where elections are done with use of lot of technology, the observers mission may not be able to interpret it in the right manner. And then time and resource constraint and political sensitivity and restricted access. So because I would like to wind up soon, now I just want to focus on the learnings, what an election observation mission should have based upon the international learnings. So basically, the observer mission should have multiple observers, and then they should be technologically well updated, and they should be having IT and cyber security experts also in their teams, so to understand the localized content. And then they also should recruit people from the local place to ensure that local language, etc., is not a big problem. And then strategies for effective observation. So there should be a code of conduct, like electoral management bodies, like we have a code of conduct, they should also be having a code of conduct. They should remain independent and impartial. This is the main quality. And they should avoid any media commentary. They should not get involved in media commentaries. And then they should work strictly as per the law. So my 10 minutes is over, so I don't want to impinge upon other people's time. So if anybody has any doubts, I think there is a special Q&A session. I think we can take questions during that time. Now I invite my next speaker, Christiane McCormick, ma'am. She will speak about transparency about elections in the United States context.
Thank you, Dr. Podorshausen, and to my esteemed panelists and everyone here. It's a great honor to be here. First, I'll tell you a little small bit about my election commission and the role of observers in the United States and their importance to transparency. So there are two national election commissions in the United States. One is called the Federal Election Commission, which deals only with campaign finance laws. And we are the other national election body, which is the Election Assistance Commission. And our focus is solely on election administration issues. We help election officials improve the administration of elections, and we help Americans participate in the voting process. We do not administer elections at the national level in the United States. That is done at the local, state, and local level by provision of our Constitution, but we do help develop procedures to help with the administration of elections. To fulfill our mission, we have four main buckets of work. Developing voluntary voting system guidelines. We also test and certify the election equipment. We administer the Help America Vote Act, or HAVA funding, which is funding appropriated by the United States Congress and distributed to the states as it is appropriated by Congress, and we audit that money as well. We serve as a national clearinghouse of election administration and information. As a clearinghouse, we're a central agency for the collection, creation, and distribution of information about elections. We also maintain the National Voter Registration Form, and we collect all the statistics about elections every 2 years after a federal election. In the United States, we have different types of observers. The observers are individuals who may observe steps in the election process. The role of an observer is to observe and monitor the election without violating voter privacy or disrupting the election. Policy on election observers is at the state and local level. They set the rules which are acceptable for observers in their jurisdictions. General members of the public have access to observe the election throughout the process. In some jurisdictions, this may include inviting the public to view activities such as pre-election testing of voting equipment, in-person voting, and the counting of ballots. We can use general observers to help with logic and accuracy testing, which is when we test all the machines prior to the election, they can create their own ballots and run them through the system to ensure that the voting systems are recording the ballots correctly and accurately. They also can help with auditing after an election. We have different kinds of audits in the US, and there's something called a risk limiting audit. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it's a statistical analysis, and to make it random, you have to roll a die and collect ballots from different places, and they can help with that. And then we also make sure that we have teams that support a balance in political representation. The role of our poll watchers are to observe and monitor the election, again, without violating voter privacy or disrupting the election. These are often from NGOs or from political parties. Challengers are individuals who are authorized to raise concerns, either with the election process or to challenge whether a voter is eligible to cast a ballot. Observers may include members of political parties or nonpartisan groups, candidate representatives, international observers, exit polls, media exit polling groups, academics, or relevant federal and local agency representatives. The U.S. Department of Justice had an election observer program, or has one, but that was truncated about 10 years ago. It used to be that the Attorney General of the United States could designate any jurisdiction in the United States to send polling monitors. That's no longer true. because of a decision by the United States Supreme Court. So now the federal government can send in monitors only when invited by the local jurisdiction or the state, or if there's a court order involved. In most jurisdictions, observers must be authorized and often have to attend a training. We do need to do some work in this area because we've seen complaints both from the election official side and from the observer side about interference on one side, or about not being able to view full access to seeing everything that the observers want to see. So it's important for us to have clear rules on what the position and role of observers should be and their limits. All over the world, we're experiencing crisis in election confidence. And one of the best ways to help build confidence is to be transparent with the public in both our election procedures and the outcomes. Over the next couple slides, I'll just say how we can be transparent as we work with observers. Social and digital media has fundamentally changed the election landscape, both in the ability of voters to have access to how elections are run and the problem of what we are labeling mis and disinformation. Maximum possible transparency is key in reinforcing the public that our elections are safe and secure. Explaining how the election office works covers a lot of different topics and is paramount for combating wrong information. These topics include registering to vote, how the machines work, the complexities of reporting and certifying election results, and what the office is doing when it is not election season. How this communication takes place can take many forms: social media, office tours, engaging stakeholders, encouraging attendance at public events, providing FAQ website pages. And we also need to communicate with each other as election management bodies. Sometimes we don't realize that what we are dealing with in our own jurisdiction may be also helpful to what other jurisdictions are dealing with. In comparing approaches and ideas is very helpful. In this effort, the United States Election Assistance Commission has recently instituted a nationwide peer-to-peer network that is a dedicated space only for election officials. It requires a registration, it is closed to the public, and anyone who is not registered cannot get on the site. But it is used by election officials in all 50 states and territories in the United States, and you can contact any other election official in the United States and discuss any concerns that you have. This is great for sharing information, and especially sharing information on rules for election observers and other ideas that we can use to promote the process of transparency. It's important to establish detailed rules and procedures in advance. Last-minute changes, on-the-go rules, and intervention by the courts often creates questions of legitimacy. In the United States, we have something called the Purcell principle, in which courts cannot change the rules close to Election Day. This case was in the US Supreme Court, which said that late and court-ordered rule changes result in voter confusion and undermines the confidence in the integrity of our electoral process, which are essential to the functioning of our participatory democracy. This underscores the importance of communicating what can be a complex process to those not in election management. Incomplete, partial, or misunderstanding of the processes can create distrust in the election officials, and scarily, sometimes that comes with threats, which we've seen all too often in the United States recently. Irregularities create fodder for disinformation and conspiracy theories, and once those are started, they are hard to stop once they're in motion, even if nothing nefarious was going on. The perception of wrongdoing can be devastating. For example, in 2020, during the US presidential election, the US had issues of boxes of ballots suddenly appearing from under tables, election administrators papering over observer windows so they could not see into the process, observers being sent home and being told that the counting was stopping in the middle of the night and would not happen until the morning, but when they arrived in the morning, the totals had changed in the accounts. And even if these were not malicious acts, they have the appearance of impropriety. This is why it is so important for election observers to be part of the process all the way through. I also just want to mention auditing and the importance of auditing. At the EAC, we're concentrating on emphasizing the importance of audits of all kinds, both process audits, for example, voter registration rolls and procedures, and machine audits. We invite election observers to be a part of these audits. We find this to be very important, making sure that they can view how the ballots are counted, making sure that the number of ballots received matches the number of people who voted, and overall compliance with the laws and procedures. By doing audits and having these audits open to observation, election offices ensure that voting systems operate securely and that election officials comply with regulations and internal procedures. They also help identify and resolve discrepancies. Our election commission is currently developing audit standards for our whole nation. We're working on those right now. We're going to have a hearing on audits next month, and we hope to have those standards out by the end of the year. Again, this is a good place to involve observers in the auditing process, both prior to the election and after the election. So my time is up, but I just want to say that please feel free to visit our website, which is eac.gov. We have loads and loads of information on there. You're welcome to cut and paste and steal as much as you wish. We encourage people to use our products. We're constantly rolling out new products to add to an already large collection of election resources. We also have a monthly newsletter that you can sign up for, which describes our upcoming events and our resources and any other relevant information. And just a final thing, we have just recently started an international observer program. We hosted in 2024 a number of international observers to view how our elections were conducted in the US. We invited them to meet with various relevant agencies and jurisdictions and organizations. I'm grateful for some of the people who are here today who participated in that observation program. We're looking to do the same in 2026. So if you're interested, please let us know. We can include you on the invitation list. So I'll back that up. So that's my email address. Please feel free to email me. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for that wonderful insights, because a lot of us were very curious about what happens in USA, and you have given a very good insight. United States being one of the world's biggest democracy. Now I request Annie Marulinga, ma'am, to give her presentation.
So good evening. Good afternoon. I think it comes during the lunch. We have, okay, my name is Anne Maria Linger. I'm from Suriname. Every presentation that I start, I'm telling the people, we speak Dutch. So my English is not, it's good, but it's not that good. So forgive me if I make mistakes. I'm going to talk about electoral observers from the standpoint from Suriname, how we do it in Suriname, and why observing is very important. Our observers are very important in Suriname. This slide I'm going to skip because it has been already said why electoral observing is important. One of the most important reason is that it is about public trust. And that is especially, I put there especially for Suriname. And in the next slide, you will see why it is important for Suriname. Before I go to that slide, I just want to tell you about the OKB. We call it OKB, the Independent Electoral Commission of Suriname. The OKB, that stands for the Onafhankelijk Kiesbureau, that is Dutch. We are constitutional foundation. We are stated in the Constitution. The Existence, organization, tasks, and powers of the OKB are regulated by law. If you read our Constitution, Articles 60, you will see in that article is stated that there must be an electoral council, an independent electoral council. And our establishment and function is regulated in the Electoral Act. The Independent Electoral Council, OKB, is a legally anchored, autonomous, and independent oversight body responsible for safeguarding the integrity, the legality, and credibility of elections in Suriname. A most important task of the OKB is that we do the observation for the election, and based upon our observation, we declare the results binding or not binding. So the last decision is in the hand of OKB. So during the election, we are the most important people in Suriname. The election in Suriname are organized by the government. We don't have an electoral management body. This is the structure of the organization. It is in Dutch, so I will explain. The president of Suriname, he pronounced the election day. It is every 5 years on the 25th of May, every 5 years. The Minister of Home Affairs is responsible for the organization of the election. His director, of her director, sets out the operation. The CHS, that is the head main polling station. They do the registrations of the political parties when for the registration for the elections. So when the election starts, the political parties want to take part into the election. They register at CHS, that is the head, the center head polling station. They do the registration for the political parties, for the candidates. They also do the counting, and they establish the results. On these sides, the government has commissions that are helping them with the organization and gave instructions or gave advice. So that those blocks you see here. Onderraadverkiezingen, beleidscommissieverkiezingen. Those are from the government side. You see OKB is over there. We stand alone and we oversee the whole process. And how we do that? We observe, the observation of OKB is every activity within the election process, we observe. The pre-elect, the elect, and the post-elect activities. No, if the activity starts, no organization or stakeholder starts the activity without the presence of the OKB observers. So if the registration for the political party starts, we are there. The ballots are printed, we are there. They are folded, we are there. They are distributed, we are there. We're everywhere. And that's how we do the observation. And I can say the people of Suriname, they have the trust in us and they really believe in us. So we have to do our work very good to keep the trust that we can have a good outcome. This is the working structure of the OKB during the election. We have an election center, and from there on, we do the work. We have the members, let OKB, that those are the members of OKB. Suriname is defined in 10 districts. Every member gets a district to organize and do the observing work. The districts are defined in resorts. We call them resorts. Every resort has 1 or 2 coordinators. We put observers at every polling station. The last election, we had 673 polling stations. Every stations get a observer in the interior. Everywhere we send observers. The main polling stations get observers. Home affairs, where they also have activities, we put observers. So we cover all the areas. As I say, the people of Suriname really count on us. It gave them trust, and then the presence of the observers also reduced the tension. The poll workers adhered more strictly to procedures, because during the election, in every polling station, there is a table and a chair for the observer. So we're the whole day there to control if they are doing their work according the law. And voters felt more confident entering the polling station. The lesson that we have learned from the Suriname's last election remind us that observation must be legally protected, access must be meaningful, neutrality must be unquestionable, and findings must lead to reform and not to denial. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving a great insight on the elections of Suriname. Even in India, we have a similar system. We have we call them micro observers. They're at every booth, and sensitive booths, we have CCTV coverage, where it's all the election process is recorded. So thank you very much. Now I request Radhe Shyamji to speak about the influence of artificial intelligence, how it can enhance or weaken the electoral observer system.
Thank you, sir. First of all, greetings to all. Already, a lot of things has been explained by the speakers, and I'm going to talk about the observer, how they can be made a smart observer, because observers are human being, and already it has been explained that they are the ears and eyes. But now it's a time to to give them mouth and even hands, so that they can not only give reports, but at the same time they can take certain actions also. That is the reason I am trying to discuss how AI can be helpful for the electoral observers. So observers are human sensor. Already it has been explained, and AI can be an intelligent assistant human sensor. That means we cannot rely on technology right now. It can be an assistant. It cannot be the sole determining agency. So we have to equip the observers with the tools of AI, but we have to keep watch on those tools. Like in 2024, Election Commission of India started a tool that was known as Election GPT. Apart from that, today more app has been launched by the Election Commission of India. So apps were there, even chat gpt was election gpt was there, but still we have to we have to go a lot. Like in United States, Eric, there is an electronic registration information center that works on the signature verification, voter rolls monitoring, and to find out duplicacy. In Brazil, there is a content moderation and bot detection algorithms that monitor on social media. Means there are certain disinformation peaks, means there is a flow of false information, fake information, that this tool works to find out these misinformations. In European Union, basically in Estonia and France, they use financial limit violation tools. So during election, when the political parties use advertisement and social media, so they work on how much amount they have been they are using. So in same way, South Africa, they use sentiment analysis and violence prediction. So by this tool, they try to keep watch on the violent behavior of the people who are participating in election. So there is a list, means AI is not a new thing, but we have to work on it in a very big task there is. So why I'm talking about this, because observer is a human being, and every time he has to face certain challenges like non-conducive environment, law and order issues are there, sensitivity issues are there, using duplicate voters, that means voters identification issues are there, sometimes booth capturing threats, post result violences, uh, paid news, bribing. These are certain things. Apart from this, the need of dedicated and devoted election officer, that is also a big issue. And again, AI, like deepfake, data manipulation, these are certain challenges. So now it is a time to use AI. Up now, one thing, can AI be the sole decision maker? Already I explained that we cannot rely, it can be an assistance, but this assistant is very important, because it can do data management, like automate voter role verification, so that we can find out whether the name, duplicate names are there. If the duplicate names are there, we can strike out. Real time reporting instant, like aggregation of observer reports from thousands of locations, it can create, it generate a report in a very short span of time. Complaints and reports, like there are certain chatbots in many countries, voters can get information by using those chatbots. So it can be helpful. Data integration combines satellite imagery, demographic data, social media monitoring, video analysis, pattern detection. Sometimes a same pattern is being followed. So by the help of AI, we can find out what kind of pattern uh, is in history, and what kind of pattern can be can be followed in coming days. Predictive analysis, potential hotspot for electoral violence or fraud based on historical data. So these are certain things where AI can be helpful. Again, it is not safe. The reason is, when we use AI, at the same time political parties will also use AI. So there will be a battle between electoral observer versus political parties, AI used by observers and AI used by political parties. So it will be a big battle. And this kind of challenges, like synthetic media, again deep fake, that is a biggest issue. Prefixed answering chatbots, means you will, like in 2024 in UP election commission, when started this election GPT. So there was, as per my information, 16,000 answers were put in that system, and whenever observers find any kind of difficulty, answer was there. That means, but the thing is, that was limited, 16,000. So in the same way, political parties, to mobilize the people, they can use that kind of AI, where prefixed answer would be there, so that they can take advantage of that. Robocalls, robo messages, I think you all know about that. And algorithmic biased content, I think again it is very known to all of us, because whenever we see YouTube a certain content, after few time, the same content will be produced by the YouTube. So these are biggest issue. So what is the solution? The solution is regulation. And again, it is not a new thing. Already some states internationally, they have started, like European Union General Data Protection Regulation and EU AI Act 2024. Brazil, they are using TSC resolution. USA state level statutes are there, though there is a lack of federal laws. UK Online Safety Act 2023, South Africa IEC guidelines and electoral code, France Loin Foix, Australia Voluntary Electoral Code, South Korea AI Basic. Means the election commission of different countries have started working. So again, we all have to work together, because it is not a concern of Indian election system, it is a concern of the whole globe. So we have to work together. And what we can do, like regulatory framework for AI assistance in election observance. we have to start using AI, but smartly. Proactive legislation for innovation and its alignment, because day by day technology is changing. So we have to make that kind of legislation which is proactive, means that can adapt the latest development. We have to align it with human rights, because again, freedom of speech and expression, that is the biggest concern. International developed standards we have to develop, establish independent AI ethical boards. Training is needed, cross border data sharing is needed, a regular audit, and at the end, judicial intervention is there, because in Brazil and in France there is a kind of system. So with these words, I would say that technology should empower democracy, not endanger it. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Radheshamji. You have highlighted very relevant issue how we should use AI for election observation. So now I would request Dr. Taha Siddiqui to talk about how media can influence election observation. I mean, media is an important part, important pillar in the whole election process, but how media is being manipulated or put for good use for election observers. Professor will speak.
A very good afternoon to one and all present and to all the panelists here. Uh, I know we are mid already into the session, and I'll not take much time because a lot has been covered by the previous panelist. So I'll get on with my topic, which is electoral observers' role in digital information ecosystem. So we know that the entire communication or the information in ecosystem has drastically changed over these years, and traditionally the role of electoral observer, which was just as a procedural process, has now converted into something which is much more complex in nature and multifaceted. So when I say it is multifaceted, what I mean is that there is involvement of social media, there is involvement of AI, there is involvement of a lot of data, and the observers have to navigate through this, which is also a challenge, but there comes the opportunity. So observers are now moving from just the physical, not just the physical spaces, but also into the also ensuring that there is cognitive safety for the voter. So when we say cognitive safety, it means that the voter is not manipulated by the information that they are getting, and that is where the role of observer is very crucial, because they are able to process or go navigate through this information system and give the right kind of reports. Moving on, and that is why communication literacy or digital literacy becomes very essential. Our other speakers have already talked about it, because that keeps the integrity of the entire electoral process intact. Moving on, I'll straight away come to what are the good practices that electoral observers in India we are doing. We have a very robust information, and the electoral system is very robust because, as mentioned earlier, at 3 levels and also at micro levels, where the electoral observers are not just assessing information or awareness, but they're also trying to understand the narrative which is happening in the public sphere, uh, in the physical public sphere as well as in the social media public sphere, which governs the narratives, which governs the public discourse. So therefore we have a good monitoring communication system which is adhering to the model code of conduct, which looks into paid news, hate speech, misinformation, disinformation, and surrogate ads, which other foreign delegates have also talked about. Also, because I am also part of academia, and we have seen that there are literacy clubs, electoral literacy clubs, which are doing wonderfully well in different organizations, and I'm sure academicians sitting here will be aware of that. So they have we in India have a very strong institutional communication, which is part of ECI and SVEEP and programs, because they are going into the community level outreach. Now, that's one of the blind spots, which is again a challenge which we are trying to overcome, because we see, as the picture depicts, that one information, one false news spreads like fire. And especially in case of political misinformation, it can really backfire. So that is the changing nature of ecosystem, and we need to go beyond the traditional regulations and dive into the digital narratives. As observers, we might be good at looking at rallies, or looking at other things, but then what needs to be sought is the invisible campaigns which are running on WhatsApp, on social media platforms, in spite of the fact that there is silence period, which we all are aware, but in spite of that, there is a lot that is happening in the virtual field. Again, continuing with the best practices, there are just 2 3 examples that I would like to cite here. That in Indian system, today, honorable commissioner also launched the global level, the ECI app, which is the mother of all apps, integrating all the apps. So this was done in the Bihar elections, and it was used in the Bihar elections, and it showcases how these tools can be used to monitor media, and real time monitoring or voter registration polling arrangements, which can really enhance the efficiency of the electoral observers. So electoral observers, in a nutshell, it's trying to detect, verify, and mitigate any piece of information. Moving on to some of the technological parts, we are using CVigil app, where citizens can upload videos and photos of any kind of violations. And the most interesting part is that these are assessed, or the observers can look into it within 100 minutes. So it is geotagged, and it is sent to the flying squads and observers for verification within 100 minutes. And then the Samadhan portal, used by observers to monitor the life cycle of every complaint that is there. Let's look at some of the good international practices in the democratic countries. Our other delegates have already talked about it. Media monitoring is one of the key strengths of EU and ODI, HR, and OSCE. Talking about the EAC, yesterday we were talking about the Communication 101 toolkit. This is one of the toolkit which is training electoral observers on communication tools, which is very vital. And talking about CARICOM also, they have certain practices which I would like to highlight. Number one is they have pre-election stakeholder scoping, which something which we also can adopt in India. To assess the elections, to assess the role of the observers, how they are doing, they can do it before the elections. Real-time election centers and collaborative monitoring, which also includes social media. And just to conclude, that right now the key for not just India but other countries is to deliberate and discuss on how we can strengthen the communication and media literacy, and incorporate trainings like, for example, disinformation monitoring or understanding digital narratives, which can lead to strengthening of these electoral observers. And that's the role of where universities and media educators can play a very important role, and also the fact checking organizations. So that is all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Taha, for a very insightful lecture about the social media. Now I come to the other part of election observation, which affects elections drastically, that is the financing of election observation. So I request Dr. Professor Dilip Kumar to speak in 3 to 4 minutes about how financial observation should happen in the new age.
So, good afternoon, distinguished delegates. So, like panel members have already talked about the observer role in elections, so I will be mainly focusing on how can we strengthen the use of finance. So, if we look at flow of money in election, we know that it can impact the candidate visibility in the election. So, it is important for the observer to understand from where the money is coming, where the money is spent. And if we look at the previous evidence, globally, it has been seen that only 15% of the international observer mission, they include the finance monitoring. So it is important to actually look at including some high-tech and modern approaches while undertaking finance monitoring in election. So what can be the possible, you can say, approaches that can be used? So these may include like open data campaign finance portal, just like we have seen in Brazil. So they publish their campaign finance data in open data format, which is accessible to civil society even before election. Then API based searchable databases can be used so that the analysis can be undertaken by the electoral finance observer, mainly to look at the trend of expenses, or looking at the relationship between who are the donors, who are intermediaries, and so on. And also it is important for electoral finance observer to make use of social media monitoring tool, as well as ad analytics tool, to understand whether the actual expense and the expense that is actually there, whether they are matching or not. And there should be an upgradation in the team, which may include some finance expert as well as legal expert, to understand if there is any complex financial manipulation that is going on. So starting with, how can we leverage the open data campaign finance portal? So to upgrade or to enhance the role of observer, it is important that the data should be published in open data format via API and should be easily accessible. This will make the observer role, as well as other you can say participants, including you can say media, or you can say researchers, to make use of that data and undertake some analysis initially and come out with some initial findings related to electoral finance, how the money is being used there. This will actually shift the descriptive kind of reporting to more analytical kind of reporting. The example that we can see is related to Brazil, where the campaign finance data is published online in real-time basis, which is accessible to civil society. And based on that, those researchers or civil society can undertake analysis. And we see also extensive disclosure in US. Second possibility is to consider API-based searchable databases. So use of API can actually make the job of observer more easy. They can undertake trend analysis based on the given real-time data. They can also undertake analysis related to cross-region or cross-candidate expenditure comparison. They can also undertake network mapping of donors and intermediaries. That can also help them, the observer, to actually move away from descriptive kind of reporting to more analytical kind of reporting. Also, if we look at a significant portion of the you can say campaign finance, those are mainly spent on social media, you can say advertisements, or you can say influencer network, or maybe related to third party, you can say proxy advertisers. So if finance observer, election finance observer, is making use of social media monitoring tool or ad analytics tool, observer will be able to track the spending on social media as well as on online platform. And with that, they will be able to identify any undisclosed sponsor or any proxy advertiser. And comparison will be can be done related to what is actually being reported or declared and what is the actual expense. So we see that such you can say observer, you can say involvement should be based on the framework which are actually highly popular related to EU regulations related to political advertising and transparency. And also if there is some complex financial manipulations are there, it is very difficult for common observer or general observer to detect that. So in that case, a multidisciplinary team, including forensic accountants or financial analysts or election law specialists and data scientists, should be included. That will actually convert their observation from descriptive to purely analytical. So these different you can say initiative, they can actually reduce the misuse of, they can actually contribute to reduce the misuse of election finances, and also may lead to contribute towards higher compliance by candidates as well as parties. And there is a possibility that that may lead to stronger transparency and public trust, and this will bring electoral reforms in the system. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor Dilip, for such an insightful words about campaign financing and role of observers in campaign financing. Now I request Senior Deputy Election Commissioner Sir, Sri Gyanesh Bharti Sir, based upon his wide experience in elections in the state, in the district, state, and also now in ECA. I think you can throw light on the Indian electoral observation system, sir, which has been, I think, a gold standard in the electoral observation process. Please throw some light on the election observation in India.
Thank you, Mr. Purushottam and all the distinguished panelists and the August gathering in this hall. Friends, as we know, ECI is a constitutional body, and in a span of 5 years, we conduct parliamentary election for 543 parliamentary constituency and for 4,123 assembly constituency in all the states, and some UTs where assembly provision is there, assembly constituency are there like Delhi and Pondicherry. Of course, they laid down guidelines for preparation of electoral roll as well as conduct of election. Laid down Act is there, RP Act 1950 and RP Act 1951. But ECI is a very thin organization. We don't have more than senior level officer, including secretary, principal secretary, more than 100. If we also take into account the senior officers or officer working in the office of chief electoral officer, who is essentially responsible for both these activities, preparation of electoral roll as well as conduct of election, I don't think it is more than 10 to 20 officers at most, even in the big states. So with this thin number of officers, to ensure that election is conducted as per our act and rules, of course, district administration is there who carries out this mammoth task. But to ensure that electoral process is followed letter and spirit, free and fair, no fraud is there, and level playing field is there provided to everyone, every political party, every contestant, every candidate. It is where the role of observer is very, very important. And it is the observer through which we have such a well-established system of observation through which we are able to conduct such a mammoth exercise in the country. So observer plays a very, very important role, which our other distinguished panelists have already spoken at length. Friends, this observation system in Indian context is going on for more than 3 decades. Initially, ECI officer used to be deputed and sometimes officer from state also. But by making an amendment in the RP Act 1951, sometimes in the year 1996, Section 20B was inserted, through which now by statute, ECI deputes senior officer as observer for looking into the whole process of assembly as well as the parliamentary election in the country. Initially, only one observer, we call it general observer, used to be deployed, who looks after the overall process. But in the year 2010, in the assembly election of Bihar, first time expenditure monitoring has also started and expenditure observer has been deployed. Similarly, first time police observer was deployed during the assembly election of West Bengal, which was held in the year 2011. So at present, in any election, we deploy 3 kind of observer. General observer, who is the overall monitor, observes the whole process. Police observer looks into law and order and other activities we'll discuss at length later on. And expenditure observer, which looks into the expenditure part to be done, carried out by the candidate, election agent, as well as the political parties. Coming to the statute, as we have very laid down, as we know, it's a constitutional organization. We have by and large sovereign and independent in our day-to-day functioning. So this Article 324, probably most of us know, and some distinguished panelists from abroad, this Article 324 gives the plenary power to the Election Commission of India, and under which it is our primary responsibility to ensure the preparation of electoral roll, which is the base for conducting of election, as well as the conduct of election in the country. We are also responsible for the election of president, vice president, and the legislative council in few states in the country. Within the constitutional provision, this Article 324(6) mandates us, and using this article, we requisition the senior officers from the central government as well as the state government. And because of this section only, we are able to deploy the officer for the overall observation purpose in the states and UTs. Section 20B I have already discussed. There is one section which is 13 CC of RP Act. During the time when these officers are working as observer, they are deemed to be on deputation to Election Commission of India. So their administrative control rests with us. So for that, during that period, for the all election related work, they are responsible to us and they are accountable to us. So in a way, it gives the administrative authority to ensure that they work as per our guidelines, as per our rules, regulation, instructions. Of late, because this expenditure part has also become very important, and in our act, certain ceilings are there, certain guidelines are there for parliamentary election. Certain upper ceiling is there. One candidate cannot spend more than some amount, like it varies from 95 to 75 lakh. Similarly, for assembly election also, it varies from 40 lakh to 28 lakh, depending upon the type of constituency. Similarly, it is our act mandates that every candidate or election agent as well as political party, they have to keep the ledger of account, especially the expenditure which they are doing during the course of campaign, during the whole election process. And if and they are also required to submit the detail within a time frame. If they fail to submit the same, then they may be tried for disqualification also. So one of the important job of expenditure observer is to ensure that the proper scrutiny is done, proper accounting is done by the candidate or his election agent as well as the political parties. As I said, in Indian context, we have three different type of important observers. Of course, general observer, police observer, expenditure observer. Of late, elector roll observer are also being appointed to ensure the purity of elector roll, because of late we have been working in a big way to ensure that elector roll is really pure and error free, which we'll discuss during the course of presentation. Generally, observers are appointed. They are the senior civil servant in the country, especially from the Indian Administrative Service, Indian Police Service, as well as from the central services. And by and large, they have at least the seniority of not less than 10 to 12 years of experience. And they have varied experience in the state and as well as in the center. Just to appreciate the thing, this is the kind of timeline. Once the election is announced by the commission through a press briefing, then after that, it depends, it may be 1 day or 3 days or 1 week, but not more than that. A notification, proper gazette notification is issued regarding the detailed schedule of election. So once notification is issued, then in the single phase election, the last date of making nomination is n+7. If n is the date of notification, then the last date of making nomination is n+7. Then the very next day after the last date, scrutiny is done in n+8. And then in the very next day, the withdrawal time is given. And after withdrawal, 14 days period is there to carry out the campaign, and that is the poll day n+24. And after 2 or 3 days, in case if there is no repoll, so a gap of generally 3 to 4 days are kept, and after that counting is done. So this is the whole process. Is if you look into it, around it's 1 month period, varying if it is single phase. If it is more than one phase, then it depends the number of phase, and accordingly days are increased. Now coming to the general observer, as I said, general observer is the overall coordinator for all kind of observation. He coordinates with the expenditure observer as well as the police observer during the election process. He reports to the constituency 1 day before the last day of nomination, and after that he stays in the area till the poll is there, poll day, and if the counting is immediately after poll, after 3-4 days, then he has to stay till the counting. He is the main person who's ensure that the whole electoral process is as per our acts, rules, and guidelines, whether it is the nomination, whether it is the withdrawal, whether it is the scrutiny. As one of the panelists mentioned about the micro observer, in critical and vulnerable polling station based on certain criteria, accordingly the district election officer or the returning officer in consultation with senior officer, they identify the critical polling station. So we deploy micro observer also. These micro observer are appointed at the district level, and essentially micro observer are in our country's context, this is essentially the employees of banks and central government officials, lower level group C level officers, who and it is the prime responsibility of the general observer to train all the micro observer and micro observer reports to general observer. So in sometimes in some districts, maybe more than 50 or 100 micro observers are also appointed. General observer also ensure that the whole process, especially the training of polling staff, ensuring the randomization of the polling staff, similarly the whether the software is properly implemented or not. Of course, these, as we mentioned, and our panelists have also told in the deliberation, these observers don't have executive authority. So in our context also, they don't have any direct executive authority. But certainly, general observer has one executive role. If he feels that there is some problem in the whole process and things have really vitiated, so at the time of counting or before that, he can take a decision not to go ahead with the counting. But certainly, if counting is stopped, it can only be restarted with the prior permission of the Election Commission of India. So during the whole period of about 28 to 30 days, which a general observer lives in the constituency, he is mandatory. He has to submit 5 reports after every important steps. But he's free to give any information to the CO or returning officer as well as the Election Commission. If he feels there is any kind of violation, if the rules are not followed as per the laid down guidelines, his primary responsibility is immediately to bring it to the notice of the returning officer. And if his returning officer is not listening, then immediately he has to bring to the notice of the CO as well as the commission, so that necessary action can be taken. Now, coming to the police observer, as we discussed, it started only in the year 2011, with the West Bengal Assembly election. And now police observers by and large is deployed on every district, by and large, or sometimes one observer over 2 or 3 districts also, depending upon the district's sensitivity. So few important role, of course, because law and order is very important, and he has to coordinate with the district police administration. He has to ensure that all the law and order machinery is properly trained. Police officers and the polling police officials who are going to be deployed during the election process, they are properly trained. He has to ensure that all kind of, because election time, we know a lot of illegal activities are also expected, whether it is illegal arms, or whether it is distribution of liquor and freebie. So those things have to be stopped, and police observers in coordination with the district administration and police administration ensure that these kind of illegal activities have to be stopped to the extent possible. Generally, he also, like general observer, reports on the last day of nomination and stays till. Just leaving. Thank you, ma'am. Nice. Carry on. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Somebody should escort her. Like general observer, police observer also stayed in the area of the similar period, starting from the last date of nomination till the poll is over. And during this period, he submits 4 different reports, mandatory. Besides, he is free to bring any kind of information which is relevant to the knowledge of CO, Chief Electoral Officer, RO, as well as the Commission. Now, coming to the expenditure observer, of course, because he has to report on the day of notification, almost 7 days before the last day of nomination. And he stays till the poll is there. And his main responsibility is to scrutinize all the documents which are submitted by the candidate or election agent as well as the political parties. He also coordinates with the other law enforcement agency, especially the income tax, custom, because any kind of inter-border transaction in terms of illegal activities, he has to ensure that it is in coordination with the police authority and the local administration, or income tax and custom, it is seized. And it is also accordingly, because we have clear, we have software where on daily basis they upload the information, and which comes to the notice of the CO as well as the ECI. During his stay, he also submits 4 reports. Of late, this electoral roll observer has also become very important, though it is not as standardized as the general police or expenditure observer, because you must be knowing this summary special intensive revision is going on at present in 12 states, and in the month of September, October, it was carried out. June to October, it was carried out in the state of Bihar, and at present in 12 states and UTs, it is going on. So to ensure that our electoral roll is pure, because that is the base for conducting the election. So of course, the district machineries are same, But depending upon the vulnerability and sensitivity of the area, we also started deploying elector roll observer. And of course, but their number is very less vis-a-vis the, because in general and police and expenditure, it is based on the number of constituencies based on the report of the CO. But now, as of now, we are not deploying more than 1 or 2 or 3 officer in one state. And generally, they coordinate with the chief elector officer of the state. Then, as per our statute, because over a group of 3, 4 districts or 5 districts, there is a concept of division also in some of the state. So, divisional commissioner by our guidelines is the ex officio elector roll observer. So, they carry out some of the privilege checking, but of late we started appointing elector roll observer also under Article 324(6). As we said, how do we select them? Because in ECI, we have the database of all the civil servants, especially IAS, IPS, income tax, and custom officers. And then we consult the chief elector officer of the state, what is their requirement at the time of conduct of election, and keeping in view the sensitivity of the area, and on the recommendation of CO, we appoint the these observers. Generally, over every 2 or 3 assembly constituency, we appoint one general observer. Generally, 1 or 2 district, we appoint one police observer, and every district we appoint one expenditure observer. This is just one small data, like in the 2024 parliamentary election, we have deployed 626 general observer, 339 police observer, and 655 expenditure observer. Because and 1710 is the counting observer. All general observers are also counting observer, and here number is more because the number of counting center is more. So for those 2 to 3 days, we appoint additional officer of the similar seniority to look after the counting process. Regarding the challenge in election observation, already has been discussed with most of the panelists, because generally one allegation is always there about observer, he may be biased. So what we do, especially for all India service officer, as well as for central service officer also, we don't deploy them in the same home district. And for all India service, not in the same cadre where one is working. So that they should remain unbiased and fairly neutral in carrying out their electoral work. So that's all. Thank you. Thank you, friends.
Thank you very much, sir, for such an insightful overview of the Indian observation system. Now the floor is open. I would like, if anybody is interested to ask any questions, I request CEO Andhra Pradesh, Sri Vivek ji, if you can ask any questions for our experts.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, regarding use of AI in the elections, so Professor Saab ne, he told about AI can be used by the observers. So while deploying the AI, a lot of data needs to be feed into the like AI system, AI chatbot or anything. So during elections, everything happens real time. So during those kind of time, how AI can be useful? So that's my question.
तो प्रोफेसर साहब आपका ये को डेटा चाहिए और इलेक्शंस रियल टाइम में होता है तो कैसा वो
Sir, basically, it is the beginning. I think am I audible? Yeah. So it's a beginning, and well, it is not a small task. It is a giant task, and initially we have to feed data, and after that there will be different kind of experimentation. Because again, the journey is very long. So already many countries have well, they are working. They are using AI tools, and most of these tools are working properly. So we have to test them, and accordingly then we will deploy. But again, as I already explained, that right now it is a time to take their assistance. We are not going to replace a human being. We are making that person equipped with the AI tools. That is.
Thank you. I would like to know from CEO Andhra Pradesh, because campaign financing is a big issue in the state. So, what are the measures as an election observation system other states should follow, your best practices, so that to reduce the campaign finance? If you can tell the audience, campaign financing, how do you monitor and how do you regulate?
Sir. So basically, as sir has told about the expenditure monitoring system, so they report to the district as soon as election is notified, and they have assistant expenditure observer under them. So first they train them, and within the district there is a VST team, video surveillance team. There's a FST team, like comprising of a magistrate and a police officer. Then there is a police naka SST team. Stationary nakas are there. So these teams are constituted. So majorly these teams have a magistrate and a police officer on duty. So and C vigil has come into the place. Oh, so if anyone comes to know some kind of money is being distributed or liquor is being distributed, or a certain candidate is exceeding their expenditure limit or something like that, so those complaints can be uploaded in the C vigil, and immediately it is forwarded to the concerned team in the jurisdiction, and they take action and they report back in the C vigil. And there is an option given to the observer through their username and password. They can keep on tracking whether those teams are working on or not, and any like complaints which has been raised in the C vigil system, they are being acted or not. So this is what system for preventing expenditure thing.
Yeah, Andhra has set an example. Sir, आप कुछ बोलना चाह रहे हैं?
Professor, please, I would like to know, because you explain na, this regarding expenditure, finance reporting, and how to ensure, I don't know, but if you can little bit give more elaboration, how practically it can be used. Because really a big challenge for all the electoral officers.
Right. So, just like in Brazil, the practice is like to upload the real-time electoral finance data. If we also are able to set up such system where different expenditure observer, if they update the data online regular basis, maybe hourly, so that it will be accessible to observer and also to the researchers or also to the media, so they can come up with some insights related to whether the disclosure is appropriate, or as whatever disclosure they are making, whether they are complete or not, right? And they can provide some initial insights on that. So there is a need to build that system, so where the team, IT team, or a group of IT team, they may actually take it forward.
So one last question to the expert speaker from Suriname. Ma'am, you said that you have observers at the polling station level also. So the observers at the polling station, polling booth. So in case if they come out with some finding that polling is not happening well, so what are the next steps taken in Suriname?
If the observer at the polling station remarks that they're not handling according to the law, they have to contact their coordinator, and the coordinator will contact the chairman, and then he will take the decision for what must happen. Sometimes the voting is stopped, and speaking to the workers at the polling station, that they have to work according the law, and then things are corrected, and then the polling station is open again. But it is the chairman of the OKB that takes the decision.
Thank you. So I thank all the audience and also the expert speakers from coming all the way. And a special thanks to Annie ma'am. She came all the way from Suriname for this to enlighten us. And as a token of respect, we would like to give some basic things from our state, from Uttarakhand state. I would like to request Mukta Mishra, our additional district magistrate, to give a token of gesture from our state. मैम को दीजिएगा. They are the authentic products from Uttarakhand, ma'am. Uttarakhand is a state north of Delhi here. Now I request Prakash ji, aye, sir. Prakash ji joined the Chief Electoral Office to give a token of gift to Gyanesh Bharti, sir. Now I would like to request Vikram Negi ji, Joint CEO, to give a token of request to Professor Dilip. So this is Brahma Kamal, our state flower. So Dilip ji. Now I would like to request Mukta ji to give a token of gratitude, express the token of gratitude to a small gift to Professor Taha. Now I'll request Dr. Prakash ji, CEO Telangana ji को state flower उत्तराखंड की. Please sir, आपके लिए. आपने you have taken 90 minutes time to spend with us, sir. So one more Brahma Kamal to CEO Andhra. Ayush ji, आइए, CEO Andhra Pradesh, for gracing our occasion. Thank you so much. उल्टा है. So with this we conclude the lecture and झाजी को नहीं मिला है. Sorry. झाजी को उत्तराखंड में दे देंगे सर. Please लीजिए. I'm extremely sorry झाजी.